The president said, and he was very clear in his 60 Minutes interview, that, COVID remains a problem and we're fighting it. And we have to continue to make sure that we are fighting this once in a generation pandemic.
But the president also said the pandemic is over. Today, the White House staff and fellow Democrats spent a full news cycle trying to explain what the president really meant in his 60 Minutes interview. Mr. Biden says the pandemic's over. His staff and Democrats, not so fast. In fact, there's a lot of Democrats pretty angry about that. Will American troops defend Taiwan? President said yes. Staff says it was a hypothetical and nothing's changed. Mr. Biden says inflation is only up an inch. His words, not ours. Staff says he takes it seriously. Mr. Biden's polling jumped 9 points since its lows in July. It coincided with a 200-day streak of no network news interviews. Chris Hahn is here, host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. All right, correlation or causation of Mr. Biden not giving any interviews will be another 200 days, Chris?
No, I think he said exactly what he wanted to say on both of those topics. By the way,
yeah,
I think he was sending a clear message to China. Yeah, we will intervene if you get in the way. If you go after Taiwan, don't go after Taiwan. And on the pandemic, he said, look, it's over. People are out there. They're walking around maskless, but it's still a problem that we've got to deal with. But we're not where we were.
So explain. Yeah, no, look, at some point, he's the president of the United States. He says what it is and how he feels. There's a lot of liberals, in sort of far left progressives who are quite angry that he said the pandemic was over. Take a listen to Mehdi Hasan of MSNBC.
Liberals and Democrats would have been all over Donald Trump if he had said something as flagrantly false and reckless that the pandemic is over. We wouldn't have given Trump a pass, and we shouldn't give Biden one either. There are too many lives still at stake.
Is it a political necessity that the pandemic's over?
Yes, it is a political necessity that the worst parts of the pandemic is over. And Mehdi Hasan was right, but the pandemic wasn't over in 2020. We didn't have the vaccines that we have now, especially being administered the way they have been in this country. Look, people know how to deal with COVID right now. People are still getting sick. That is not to say they're not, and there are people who are still dying. It's very unfortunate. But we know who is most susceptible. And we know who is getting sick.
Why are a certain group of the Democratic Party so angry at the president for saying it?
I mean, look, man, people on the wings are going to get angry no matter what you say, no matter what you do. The president needs to appeal to the vast middle. Elections, as we've discussed here many times, are about winning the middle. They're about winning the guy who's getting up every day, going to work, coming home, wondering how he's going to pay his bills, doesn't want to be saddled with things, got vaccinated, doesn't understand why he needs to put a mask on if he goes somewhere. So the president, I think, is speaking to that person who could help win Ohio for Mr. Ryan, who could win Pennsylvania for Mr. Fetterman, who could win Georgia. So, I mean, we've got to think about things in those terms, because if the president loses the Senate, his presidency is effectively over for the next 2 years.
He said his presidency is probably over. He said he may not run.
Yeah, I think, look, I think he couched it. He gave a caveat. Yeah. I think,
was that his way of sort of letting the party know and letting somebody like a Gavin Newsom in California know, hey, it's okay if you create a campaign in waiting, letting Kamala Harris go down to South Carolina and talk about race and sort of start building out her own network there?
Possibly, but I think the president was saying, look, I intend to run, but God knows what's going to happen between now and then. I, for one, think that these elections are way too long. I think we should have a rule in this country. You have 120 days to campaign, not 2.5 years to run for president.
But come on, Chris, then we wouldn't have anything to talk about if it didn't last that long. And you think about it.
That is true. I mean, it is full employment for pundits.
Yeah, if we had the British system, you and I would get paid a lot less.
Well, we could talk about football. I mean, the Giants are doing great. I'm just saying.
Well, everybody's going to win a couple of games at some point, okay?
Stop.
Okay. Here's. Let me ask you, and this is in all seriousness.
Yes.
It's been 7 months since the president gave an interview. You and I talked about this. Really, since July, he's kind of been roped off and contained and not allowed to interact in the way that he typically, or even any typical president, does, much less than President Trump, President Obama, President Bush, anybody. Is it going to be another 7 months till he does an interview after all of this?
No, I thought that was actually a good interview for what I was talking about, appealing to the middle. You know, the people in the middle who are getting up and going to work every day, they're not concerned what was said from the White House press room today, trying to take back what he said. They heard what the president said. We will defend Taiwan if China attacks. He's being strong against China. The pandemic is fundamentally over. We have work to do. There are still people in trouble with it. But
yeah,
for the
but
most
inflation's
part,
only
over.
up an inch. You think he
that.
wants that one back?
No. Wait, repeat that. I was talking
when he said inflation's only up an inch, he's got to want that one back.
Well, he said it's only up an inch since last month, right?
Yeah.
So it's a caveat.
All right.
But yeah, I think he's got to look. We've talked about this before. He has to make it very clear to the American people that he understands that inflation's a burden on them. He's doing everything he can all day and all night to work on that, which is why he passed the Inflation Reduction Act. Let Republicans defend why they didn't vote for it.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.